Hey, this is Scott. This is truth. Jordan Peterson. You know, I've talked about Gary Vaynerchuk. I've talked about Andrew Tate. Talked about Dave Ramsey. Let's talk about Jordan Peterson. A very close friend of mine listens to him all the time. And let's review. Jordan Peterson is a Canadian clinical psychologist, former professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, and best-selling author. He rose to fame in 2016 for opposing Canadians' Bill C-16, which argued would compel free speech regarding gender pronouns. Big lecturer, podcasts, he's on TikTok, all this stuff. So what people appreciate about Jordan Peterson, his emphasis on responsibility, clarity on chaos versus order, critique of postmodernism, support of free speech, and helping struggling young men. Many men will credit him with helping them find purpose, structure, and a sense of identity. Okay, I guess where are the dads, right? Now, here's the thing that I think about, or this is how I feel about Jordan Peterson. He just has this arrogant, now maybe it's because he's Canadian. I'm not throwing a rock at Canadians, but he just seems to be like a holier than thou. I know more than you. He just seems arrogant to me, and I've never met the guy. I just see the stuff. Overgeneralization about gender roles. Peterson often speaks of traditional masculinity and femininity in rigid evolutionary terms. Critics argue this reinforces stereotypes, implying that men and women are biologically destined for certain roles. Well, listen, I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. Been married 41 years. I got a daughter and a son. I do believe in gender roles. The guy goes to work and the wife makes the sandwiches, right? Well, not in 2025. Maybe back in 1940, 1950, that's the way it was, but not anymore. And you know why? It's pretty much because of men. Men get girls pregnant, they leave them, and then women have to be the man of the home. They got to mow the lawn, they got to pay the bills, they got to be the parent, and that ends up hurting both the kids, if they're girls and boys, where they don't have that male role model in their lives. And think about it. What is it, 7 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 teachers are females. So if you get a single mom and you got the boy and girl at home, the kids, they see their mom and then they see the female teacher. Where are the male role models? The policeman, the fireman, the football player, who are these role models? So I got to throw a lot of rocks at guys who run around, getting girls pregnant, being all this, and not being responsible. And a good friend of mine says, well, Scott, it's partly the girl's fault too, that they're, if the guy is real slick, you got pretty hair, pretty eyes, it's a beautiful night, let's blah, blah, blah. And then 9 months later, and the guy runs away, whatever. That even goes back to this. Have you ever heard of Fresh and Fit? Google him, Fresh and Fit. I like Myron, but Fresh, I don't even know the guy's name. He talks about all this, toxic masculinity stuff, and then he gets a girl pregnant. And the girl goes viral, I think she was an OnlyFans girl. And he goes, hey, take plan B, have an abortion. I don't want to have a kid, so that's just horrible. But anyway, going back to Jordan Peterson, his views sometimes ignore the fluidity and diversity of gender roles in modern societies and reduce complex social dynamics to biology. Well, we all know guys that are feminine, we know that girls that are masculine. Like I said, I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and I saw a lot of masculine women in the Navy, and thank God for them. Welders and all these kind of stuff. And I actually even know women in the Navy who are going to be lawyers. And so you can't generalize people, right? You just can't. Also about Jordan Peterson, the dismissal of social inequality. Peterson tries to downplay the impact of systematic inequality, often suggesting that personal failure is largely due to individual lack of responsibility or effort. Well, that's not true. You have Navy veterans, or you have veterans in general who join the service at 18, PTSD, they have all this stuff, they come back, very hard to reacclimate. So you can't blame them. You can blame the VA if you want to, about giving them drugs to shut them up or to to get rid of their pain. Then they get addicted to drugs and they have to go to rehab. So that's not fair to the veterans. Conflation of postmodernism and Marxism. Peterson frequently criticized postmodern neo-Marxists, a term he coined, claiming they dominate academia and erode Western values. Well, if you listen to the former Rush Limbaugh, he talked about colleges too, being a bastion for liberal whatever. And I actually saw Robert B. Reich on Colbert, the former Secretary of Labor, and I think he's like 3 feet tall, talking about stuff. Robert B. Reich. Dogmatic tone and intellectual overreach. Though Peterson is trained in psychology, he often makes strong claims in philosophy, religion, sociology, and politics without the same scholarly rigor. So, anyway, Jordan Peterson, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me, Jordan Peterson. Check him out. See if you like him, see if you don't. And is he right, is he wrong? I'll leave that up to you. Scott Lara, stay tuned for more stuff. Like, share, leave a comment. Have a great day. Jordan Peterson.